Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
With in theme with this soundtrack just being pure AJ Soprano core and myself, just gotta talk about how new metal this soundtrack is, and just all the great new metal soundtracks we've had throughout the years. What would a movie like Little Nicky be without the soundtrack for it? I'm just saying. I guess we could just talk about big soundtracks for us, because I do remember having this, and this is how I got introduced to Death in Vegas and a few other songs on here. I'm pretty sure watching this movie is how I got informed by Queens of the Stone Age a little bit. Maybe I heard songs from Songs of the Deaf before I saw this movie, but I don't know.
I remember my dad in 2003 got Songs for the Deaf, and he was obsessed with that album for so long. Like, if I was in my dad's car every other time, at least Songs for the Deaf would be playing. So
hell yeah.
I was introduced by Death in Vegas by the Black Dahlia trailer, the unfairly maligned Brian De Palma film that I am like a champion of, and that trailer fucking rips, probably because that song also rips. Soundtracks that were big for me, I definitely had The Matrix and The Matrix Reloaded. If we're talking new metal soundtracks, those soundtracks,
that Matrix soundtrack fucking rips.
Yeah. What's so funny about the Matrix Reloaded soundtrack too is like it's like Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, a lot of artists that are on here, and then it ends with like this like remix of When the World Ends by Dave Matthews Band. And it's in the end credits too. It's still there because I just rewatched it because I'm like, oh yeah, there's like a teaser for Revolutions at the end of it, since I was doing a rewatch to build up for the new movie that came out last month. And it's just so funny to me that they had like this Matrixified Dave Matthews song that's so out of touch with everything else. I also had the Daredevil soundtrack, which got me into Evanescence when I was 12.
Hell yeah. You were listening to the Rob Zombie Drowning Pool song, The Man Without Fear.
Daredevil. Yeah, don't they actually say Daredevil in it?
Yeah. The chorus is, come on, come on, come on, come on, Daredevil.
Oh, God. Oh, God, I'm going to regret recording this episode. I was a stupid child, everyone. I watched the Ben Affleck Daredevil more times than I'd like to admit. I
saw it in the theaters, and I was hyped because I knew Kevin Smith was in it. So, who's really the loser here? Okay.
No, I saw Daredevil in theaters more than once because I was 12. I also did not see the movie for a while, but I did have the Punisher soundtrack, which also, I believe, had an Amy Lee song.
It had Drowning Pool. It had Drowning Pool.
Yeah. We'll talk about that movie somewhere down the line.
Oh, that's coming up. Yep. Okay, so maybe I won't spoil that then. But...
Does that have Seether and Amy Lee?
Yeah.
Does that have Broken?
Broken, yeah.
Yeah.
The music video, she's lying on top of a car, just like belting out into the sky or something. Like, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
But I've been yakking. Bryden, what soundtracks did you have growing up in the vein of Blair Witch 2's new metal?
I don't know if I owned a lot of I guess I'm just trying to think of like owning scores. I mean, or soundtracks rather. I think like the one soundtrack that I have. No, I have like a couple of soundtracks, I think, on actual like CDs in my room. I have the Social Network score on a CD.
Great
that's
score.
like,
yes.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah. And that's kind of like, I mean, Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails, that's kind of like in the, the industrial, like sort of new metal sort of like aesthetic. So that's kind of cool. And then I think like the other track, I think I bought like the Trainspotting soundtrack like when I was in high school. Like after I'd seen the movie, I was like, oh yeah, I'll listen to this. I haven't listened to it that much, but I've listened to it. I definitely like heard songs that I'd never heard before.
What's that song that ends Trainspotting? That song fucking rules.
Orange Slippy by Underworld? Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, that's a great track.
Yeah. So those are pretty good picks, I'd say. I have like a few others that like are where I'm like looking like, oh, I got a lot of songs from this, but like they're maybe like borderline embarrassing. But like so maybe just
I just admitted to having the Daredevil soundtrack, so I don't think you have to worry. Yeah. You know. Look, everyone in podcast land can judge us accordingly, but we don't have to hear what they have to say when they have this plugged in.
See, the thing is I'm not embarrassed by those songs on there. Did I listen to The Man Without Fear, like, I don't know, fairly recently, and it still rules? Yes. I don't know. There's a very lack of Limp Bizkit on a lot of these soundtracks, and it's I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that. Then I had to pull up the End of Days soundtrack, which fucking rules. Which has Korn, Limp Bizkit, Prodigy, Eminem, Rob Zombie, Power Man 5000, and Sonic Youth.
Sounds great.
That movie's so fucking bad though.
It's awful.
I'm gonna watch it.
I watched it for the first time like last year, and I was like,
it's so
"This
bad.
is terrible."
There's just a sequence in that movie where Gabriel Byrne has an incestuous threesome with a mother and daughter for absolutely no reason in that movie, and you're just like, gross. Like, what am I doing here? Like, why? Although
Gabriel Byrne was somehow in that and Stigmata, both like end of the world religious movies.
Stigmata is also not good. Although that had
it's terrible.
That had
but-
Olives Full of Love by Bjork in it, at least.
It also had Chumbawamba at the start of it.
Did it
Let's
really?
Not forget. Yeah, it has Mary Mary by Chumbawamba on the intro. The intro is, I know this is but it's like the most 90s thing ever. Like, it's ridiculous. It's pretty fantastic though. But yeah, I finally watched Stigmata for the first time like 2 years ago, because I always remember growing up seeing the trailers and seeing Patty Arquette's with dubbed over voices saying the messenger is importante.
Yeah.
I'm adding this to my watch list because I'm looking at just the soundtrack, and why not?
It's not boring.
Yeah.
Much like the movie we're about to talk about, it's also a movie that just gives up. It just kind of ends, and they're just kind of like, and shrug. It's fine.
We saved her?
Yeah.
I guess.
How? Reasons, I guess. Like, yeah, it's just, it doesn't make any sense.
The late 99 movies about End of the World are just fascinating to me, because all of them are bad, but because you had End of Days, you had Stigmata, and we were supposed to have Lost Souls, the Winona Ryder movie,
one, yeah.
but that got pushed back because there's too many End of the World movies in 99. But I think that's it. There might be like one. Oh, there's that one movie Last Night.
Oh yeah, I think that's technically a holdover from '98, or maybe that played at festivals in '98. But yeah, that's a Canadian movie. Yeah, that one's got some interesting stuff in it. Yeah.
You know what's not a good movie at all, but has a pretty awesome soundtrack from '99 is Jawbreaker. Has Imperial Teen on it with Yoo-Hoo, which is great.
Oh, I like that song.
Yeah.
That song kind of annoys me by the end, because they play it like 9 times. I just rewatched that movie for the first time in like 20 years.
It's not great.
It's not good. It's not good at all.
Most of Gallant's pretty good in it, though. You know, that's.
She's
so
great.
She's perfect for it. Yeah. Also, of course, Carol Kane is great and everything. But yeah, I watched that and Sugar and Spice for the first time in like 20 years, and that was just a great kind of double feature.
Sugar and Spice has been on my list forever, and I know Scout Tafoya did an unloved video essay on it. So, and plus, I miss Mina Savari.
Yeah, that's also a movie where it's like they had to extend the credits for like 10 minutes because it wound up being like 71 minutes. So they had to like pad it for theatrical release.
Drop Dead Gorgeous, that was 99 too, right? I just saw that for the first time not too long ago.
Yep.
That's a pretty funny movie. I mean,
yeah, it's great.
plus, I mean, Kirsten Dunst, Amy Adams, Denise Richards. Denise Richards is a fucking hoot in that thing. I've become a real Denise Richards apologist after, like, in lockdown, I was watching that. I watched Wild Things. I rewatched Starship Troopers, and I'm like, Denise Richards, she got a lot of shit. I think she's pretty awesome in some of these, like, especially Wild Things. Jesus. Bryden, I forget. Have you seen Wild Things? Yes or no?
Yes, I watched it a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
it's fun. I haven't seen Drop Dead Gorgeous or Starship Troopers, but I'll get to them at some point.
She's in, I'm trying to think of other Denise movies.
Oh, I did watch
Valentine,
which, our friend Michael Snydell just watched, said brings stuff to be inebriated while watching it. The other one I just remembered that I watched for the first time is Tammy and the T-Rex. Also,
oh
a blast.
man,
Watch the gore cut. I have not seen the PG-13 cut, but the gore cut is something else. Holy shit.
welcome to Almost Major, a podcast where we talk about the many major studios and the films they release. My name is Kevin Tudor, and with me is Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And we are still on Artisan, and we are talking about... I'm trying to think if Artisan put out any other sequels. This might be their only sequel. I think it might be. To their biggest movie, and one of the biggest movies of the 90s, We are, of course, talking about Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2 from 2000. It was released October 27th, 2000, which is, do the math, 14 months after Blair Witch Project came out. It was released to 3,317 theaters, placing in second place behind Meet the Parents. Top 5 were, also in the top 5 were Remember the Titans, Pay It Forward, and Bedazzled. Better times. I think this is the same weekend or the same weekend before Requiem also came out, because we were talking about Meet the Parents being in the top 5 for Requiem.
I just got flashbacks about Pay It Forward. Have any of you seen that?
No.
Unfortunately, that was a big like teacher didn't want to teach, so we watched Pay It Forward.
I just
also Remember the Titans, which I've only seen in school, and I've seen it 35 times somehow.
I watched Pay It Forward in chunks on cable, and when I got to the ending, which I won't spoil, but it is a howler. I just remember my mom sobbing on the couch, and then she was like, "Why am I crying? This is horrible!" Like,
You fool! You bought into it.
yeah.
The budget for this was $15 million. Domestically, it grossed $26 million, and overall, it grossed $47 million. It's directed by Joe Berlinger, co-written by Joe Berlinger and a man named Dick Beebe. Dick Beebe. This is Berlinger's first narrative film. Prior to this, he did the first 2 Paradise Lost movies. And he also had another documentary in 1992, which the name of it escapes me.
My Brother's Keeper, I think, or Brother's
Keeper.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, which I believe he co-directed with somebody else, which I think the Paradise Lost movies are also co-directed. But anyway, after this, he does the Metallica Some Kind of Monster documentary, which Metallica also did the score for the Paradise Lost movies. And he returns to the narrative films with the Zac Efron Ted Bundy film. And I'll give either one of you $50 if you can accurately remember the title of the movie.
Okay, I think it starts with like extremely wicked, shockingly vile, and
So close. So close.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Fuck, it's
Oh,
too many.
God.
I know it's like taken like from an actual quote. Like
Direct quote, yeah.
yeah. Fuck. What is
All
it?
I remember about that movie is that Lily Collins said that she spoke to the ghosts of Ted Bundy's victims while making that movie.
Oh my gosh.
That insane interview that she gave where she was like, I didn't feel threatened, I felt comforted. I felt like they were saying thank you for telling our story, which I can only imagine just the ghosts of being like, hey, that new Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie's coming out. Do you want to talk to him? No, we have to talk to Lily Collins. We have to
What is it? What is it on? Is it on Netflix? Do we have Netflix up here? Oh, fuck.
They're just, yeah, I guess that all of her Ted Bundy's victims are just bored in the afterlife. Like,
Yeah.
just sitting
Lily
around
Collins?
waiting.
Wait, you mean Phil Collins' daughter? But okay, whatever. The title is Brighton Almost Got It. It's extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and
Fuck.
vile. Yeah,
Damn.
just the worst title ever. It could have just been called Mr. Bundy, and it would have been better.
Hello, my name is Ted Bundy.
Hello, my name is Ted Bundy, and why are you running? Okay.
Oof.
This movie is about a group of tourists arriving in Berkowitz. Jesus Christ. Burkittsville, Maryland, after seeing the Blair Witch Project in 1999 to explore the mythology and phenomenon, only to come face to face with their own neuroses and possibly the witch herself. That makes it sound cooler than it is. Starring Jeffrey Donovan as Jeff. Before I get into this, I was listening to a commentary track today, and apparently they were gonna do the same thing as in the first movie, where their names are the same as their real life names. And that is true. They have the same first names, but their last names are different. But while making the movie, they had the same exact names. And then I guess through the post-production, they were just like, do you really want your real name tied to a movie where you're like accused of murdering people? So they had to go back in ADR and their last names, make fake last names. But Jeffrey Donovan plays Jeff. Prior to this, he was in Sleepers in 1995. After this, he becomes Mr. Burn Notice. Kim director is Kim. Prior to this, she's in 3 Spike Lee films: He Got Game, Bamboozled, and Summer Sam. After this, she's in 2 more Spike Lee movies: Inside Man and She Hate Me, plus his TV remake of She's Gotta Have It. Plus, she was on the HBO show The Deuce.
Mm-hmm.
Erica Lernson as Erica, her first film. After this, she plays Pepper in the 2003 remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Stephen Barker Turner as Stephen. Prior to this, he had some appearances on Law and Order, and after this, he had another appearance on Law and Order. Tristan Styler as Tristan. Prior to this, she was in Cadillac Man in 1990. After this, she is on Law and Order Trial by Jury.
Wow. It all comes
So
back to
much
Law and
Law and
Order.
It all comes back to
Yeah.
Law and Order. I didn't know there was trial by jury. I'm actually embarrassed to admit I didn't know that.
Are you a real Dick Wolf fan or what?
Oh,
Come
God.
on now. I mean, yes, every movie we talk about here always comes back to the amazing. Trivia. Artisan approached Dan Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez on doing another Blair Witch film around October 1999. Another thing I didn't mention, which at the moment, even though I was 7, I thought it was so strange that because Blair Witch Project came out in late July 1999 and it was on video already by October. And that seems normal now, but back then it was at least like 6 months or more between theater and home video. So while the movie was just now coming out on home video, Artisan was already approaching them to do a sequel or anything. They said they were completely done with horror movies and Blair Witch for the time being because they just spent literally a decade on and off developing this movie. They wanted to make a pretty silly, dumb rom-com called Heart of Love and to do a prequel to the Blair Witch a few years later. Artisan wanted the sequel to come out in October of 2000, so 1 year from when they talked to them, so they offered Berlinger the sequel with 3 scripts that were all found footage movies that he could choose from. He hated all the scripts and also hated the original film and decided to make his own version. They greenlit this version in January 2000 and started to film it in March 2000 with an October 2000 release date. So, big old turnaround there. Artisan didn't like the original cut of the film and asked to add more gore and re-edit the film. The added bits of gore shown throughout the film were filmed, I believe, in Berlinger's backyard a few weeks before the film came out.
His backyard? That's why
I
it looks
think
like
so.
shit.
Yeah. Ironically, Artisan was not pleased with the shot of Tristan with blood on her jeans after her miscarriage because they said it was too much, yet they were also the same studio that okayed the random shots of gore and violence added into the film weeks before it was released. All the police interrogation scenes were supposed to be at the end, but Artisan recut it to appear all throughout the film. It was also supposed to open... The opening credits were supposed to be over Frank Sinatra's Witchcraft to give off a happy vibe before getting into the darkness, but Artisan said, fuck that, we're going fucking new metal and industrial, and we're putting Disposable Teens by Marilyn Manson. Also, there's no Book of Shadows
False
in the
advertising.
movie at all. Yeah. If I remember correctly, the Book of Shadows is mentioned in Shadow of the Blair Witch, which was similar to Curse of the Blair Witch. It was a mockumentary that preceded the release of the film. I think it was like a script that the Jeff character was writing, but yeah, there's no Book of Shadows in the movie, so.
Last summer, after the crowds left, 5 strangers returned to the woods to uncover the truth. But one of them has a secret that will unlock the curse.
You know, if you don't believe in the Blair Witch, then why the hell did you bother to come?
I thought the movie was cool.
This fall, just in time for Halloween, the witch is back. On October 27th, forget everything you've heard. Forget everything you've seen. Because this time, the truth is scarier than fiction.
Initial thoughts. I'm gonna go first. I almost feel like I'd watched this movie. I've definitely seen this more than the original Blair Witch Project because I gotta like pace myself that I don't want to. I want every time I rewatch that to still have the same feeling and not feel like I've seen it so many times. So I feel like this is the way that I can experience Blair Witch and not care because it's a terrible movie and I love it. But yeah, I don't know. It's a hilarious movie. It's truly baffling. It definitely feels like they had like 7 months to make it, write it, and put it out because they did. So yeah, it's also so convoluted, and by the end of it doesn't make sense. Like every single time I watch it, I'm like going on Wikipedia and I'm like, wait, what did I miss? And it's just like, no, you didn't miss anything. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I mean it's terrible and I love watching it. I don't know what to say. Bryden.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty bad. It's funny watching this back to back with like the first movie, and like it does everything that the first movie, it does the opposite of everything that the first movie does so well, where it's like the first movie I think works so well, like, and because like it is like so minimal and like everything is like suggested and it is so and like that's like where the horror comes from, whereas like this movie is like, okay, we'll add more like a typical like loud jump scare score. We'll have more gore, and then like we'll have like a way more complicated plot where we go into the lore, but also like don't really explain it, like where it's like really confusing, and we'll have like this very complicated framing device that's like very hard to follow like time wise. I mean, the movie opens, I think I wrote it down, where like there's like 3 different title cards in like 5 minutes, like saying. I think it starts out where it says 1999 when we're getting like the montage about like the legacy of the Blair Witch Project, the movie. Then we get an August 1999 title card, and then we get the montage of all the media. Then it says cut to 2 years earlier, and then it shows like Jeffrey Donovan in a mental institution. Then we get an August 1999 title card. Then the opening credits, and then we go to the interrogation room with Jeffrey Donovan, and it says November 1999. It's like. The whole movie.
You're missing 2 more title cards though, because it starts out and it's just like this film is a reenaction of what happened after the phenomenon of the Blair Witch Project when it came out in 1999.
Yeah.
And then there's another title card which I forget what it says, but yeah, it's just that is pure post-production trying to string the movie together.
It shows, and like. Yeah, like the editing is like just so sloppy throughout. I mean, there's like one scene where it's like them like talking at a campfire, and I get like that they're all messed up on like, you know, drugs and like alcohol and everything in the scene, but like just like the shots are like maybe like a second or half a second long when like they're cutting to like the reaction shots. It just feels so choppy, and the movie. You know, the first movie is like kind of like the first movie bases its dread around like, you know, waiting for something to happen or waiting their fates out and everything. And the movie like is able to mine some dread out of that. Whereas this movie is mostly just for some reason it's kind of hard to explain, but like it's just most of people just yelling in a room at each other, and it somehow like has no suspense. I think it's partly because like the filmmaking I think is like pretty drab, I would say, for the most part, or very like by the numbers with like, you know, very cheap shock scares, and like I said, that's like not nearly as effective as like the minimalism of the first movie. And you know, this is not, you know, with like some sequels it's maybe unfair to compare it to the legacy of the first movie, but like this movie like really kind of shoots itself in the foot, I think, by directly interrogating the legacy of the first movie and everything. It's like it's calling that comparison out, and I don't know, like there's like attempts at like satire and like social commentary that like makes me wonder. You know, I haven't seen Berlinger's Paradise Lost documentaries, but from my understanding of like that case, it's like kids who were like profiled because of like, you know, their appearance, like being into metal and like how they dressed and looked, and you get like whispers of that in this movie where people are getting like treated badly because of like they wear like blue streaks in their hair or lots of heavy makeup, and they listen to like new metal music and that kind of stuff, and they're into witchcraft, but like
very obnoxiously into witchcraft.
Yeah, and it's like the movie. Like it's like it's like, okay, maybe I could see like whispers of a movie being made about this, but then like, I mean, we'll talk about it as we get to the ending, but like I almost, maybe it's like I'm taking the movie at face value, but it's like almost like the movie kind of like has like a weirdly conservative outlook. It's like yeah, you're right to profile these kids because it turns out they fucking suck, and like they're just like yeah. I don't know if like that's maybe unfair, but it's like I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me, and I don't know, this movie, I just found it like really tough to get through. Like there are like occasionally details that are like really funny. Like we'll get to some of the line readings, the hysterical line readings near the end of the movie. But I found this to be a real slog.
Yeah, I have some more notes that I had that I was trying to find. The ending doesn't have enough power to it at all. Like, okay, so the 5 people in this movie actually did destroy their own equipment and kill the campers, but was it witchcraft or were they just psychopaths too involved with the mythos of the original film? We don't know. The intention of the film is trying to point a finger at news outlets that blame violent crimes on violent media, but then if that is the case, isn't that they were murders inspired by the Blair Witch Project? It means they were possessed by the Blair Witch, but either way, they murdered a bunch of people and they just don't believe any of the facts of the ending. They don't even claim they were possessed. They just don't remember, which just isn't interesting. Like, you would make the audience feel sympathy for them if they truly knew that they weren't in control of their bodies when all this happened, but you don't. You just there's like probably an ADR line of just a reporter saying like, there's already rumors that there's a supernatural element to these murders, and that's it. You just don't understand the big proclamation this movie is trying to make or failed to make, and it's like like are people obsessed with the original movie? Yes. Were these people obsessed to the point that they killed other people? I don't know. Were these people possessed? I don't know. Were they just really high and drunk? I mean, that's what the movie almost leans on at points. Is possession in this film just doing things but not remember doing them? Like, I guess it just doesn't make any sense. And it's not even like, oh, it's ambiguous. It's just like, no, it just doesn't know what side to lean on. Like, Berlinger said the movie was supposed to be more ambiguous, but as it stands now, it already doesn't make any sense because it's trying to say way more than what is offered, but can't pick a side. It doesn't want you to truly believe they were possessed, just that they don't remember things. It doesn't want you to truly believe that they were insane with fandom of the original movie, that they wanted to create more chaos. It doesn't want you to believe anything, kind of. Like, there's no motivations and there's no interest of why there's no motivations. It's like it brings up ideas like Jeffrey Donovan saying like, film lies, Kim, but video never lies, and stuff like that. So it's just like, yeah, when they reverse the video, that's when you get to see the real truth. But it's just like, okay, what is that trying to say? Is that trying to say like the Blair Witch Project is fake because it was filmed, but the video that they have is like what really goes down? It's just
but
like,
then the video is like shows like the what like happened, and like the guy's just like, oh, that's a lie, that's not how it happened. I don't really know what like Berlinger's trying to say.
that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
That's fucking bullshit.
I don't know what the movie's trying to say with any of this stuff. Like, it's just there, and I'm like, okay, it sounds like you're trying to say something, but it just sounds like you're like, it's like talking points and like not really knowing what to do with any of them. Yeah, Charlie, I want to hear your initial thoughts.
I mean,
on
I'm mirroring everything that both of you have already said. I mean, out of all the movies we've talked about thus far, none have baffled me quite as much as this one. Like, even shit like Soul Survivors, like, that feels like a complete
great movie
film. Like, that twist ending is bonkers and miscalculated and offensive, but at least it was like, well, it was all building to that. Even if it cheats, it's like they have an end goal. This movie, I was flummoxed from the first scene to the last. I was like, I don't know what this movie's thesis is. I don't know what this movie's trying to achieve. I don't know what I'm supposed to think or feel. I don't know. There's like 50 different ideas and like they're not bad like questions that are being asked, but they don't follow through with any of them. And the way they do follow through with some of them are just either like, they don't really follow through with any of them. And in the ways that they begin to examine them are just not interesting, as you've mentioned, Kevin and Bryden. Like, I was just utterly baffled by everything. You mentioned the convolution. I don't know what this story is. It felt like they were making it up as they went along. Like, I mean, I was texting you guys throughout it where I was just like, what is this? Like, I don't know what like this is supposed to. And it feels especially cynical to me. It made me especially angry because it does ultimately feel, I mean, it's such an obvious cash grab where you just look into the history of like, yeah, they were already doing sequel stuff by the time the first one came to video, and the script was written in a month, and then they added all these gore scenes and shit like that, where it feels especially disingenuous and insulting because they are smart enough to bring up the fact that like one of the characters is completely making money off of Blair Witch merchandise, and then what is this film but just milking the Blair Witch name for a movie that has barely any resemblance to the first film at all, other than taking like the same setting and saying this is what could have happened. And I agree. The fact that I have seen the first Paradise Lost film, which is all about being, it's a call to action in advocating for these kids' innocence who going against, because they were into more gothic culture. They were, the satanic panic that was taking over the whole country at the time, but also especially in, below the Mason-Dixon line. And to have this movie just justify that in a weird way, like sort of, but not really, is just baffling to me. And especially considering Paradise Lost, like, it's a fascinating time capsule because I believe that came out in 1996. That was pre-Columbine. So like then Columbine happens and that people automatically blame Marilyn Manson, which disgusting person now based on what we know about him, but obviously had the finger pointed at him for wrong reasons back then. The Matrix, all this stuff. And to have this come out post-Columbine feels especially gross to me because there's even that line at the end that's like, again, another violent piece of media that is responsible for this heinous crime. And it was like, fuck you. First of all, the first Blair Witch Project, as I mentioned earlier, like on the previous episode, psychologically violent, not a shred of violence in it that you see, physical violence at least. And I just kept being like, I don't know what this movie expects me to grasp onto in any way, because it keeps shifting. It's like, okay, Blair Witch was harmful to Wiccan culture. Okay, this character had a miscarriage. Okay, this character is a goth, and then she thinks that, like, she's being criticized because she likes to wear black makeup and stuff like that. And it's just like none of it adds up to anything, and ultimately it just feels so rushed and incomplete. It doesn't feel like a finished film. It feels like, okay, we just need to get this out while Blair Witch Fever is still sort of here. Oh crap, the backlash is coming. We got to get this thing out quick. Just get it out so we can milk it for all it's worth. And then, like,
why would you not wait for the backlash to die down and then do another one?
Yeah. It doesn't,
because that's what the directors from the original one said. They were just like, let's just let it chill out, and then in like 2 years we'll do a prequel. And they were just like, no, gotta make one.
Yeah,
you must chill.
Like, it's not. It was just trying to, even if it was a dumb replica of like the first film, or like, but it has weirdly higher aspirations in terms of like providing a commentary on what made the first film such a hit and trying to provide cultural commentary on why this thing was so successful. And then it just drops the hat and becomes stupid, and it's not even scary. I mean, like the clip, I started losing it when the doctor's saying to Tristan, "Oh, you had a miscarriage. You lost a lot of blood. Probably for the best. Your body's saying it's wrong. There was something wrong." And then it has like, and this was pre-Ring too, it has like the drowned little girl that just kind of like
moonwalks,
flapping and then just like leaking water all over the place. And I'm just like, that is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. Like,
she comes back too. Did they explain it? No. And it's just like, I understand it's probably one of the girls that went missing in the Blair Witch lore, but it's just like, how much do you think the average audience member is going to know that? And also, that's not scary. It's just funny, actually.
We were also talking about Requiem for a Dream seems like a PSA. This almost seems like a PSA for don't drink or you'll murder people. like if you have a bonfire with a bunch of friends, you better be careful because you might get possessed by witches, aka get too drunk and then murder a bunch of townsfolk for no reason. Like, even one of the murders, when it turns out one of the people killed because she wasn't being allowed to be sold beer, it's just so stupid. It's so
touch me again and I'll rip out your goddamn throat.
Yeah, I think all the acting's bad, but like, I definitely do think that out of the main performers, Kim Director comes out the least unscathed, and I actually think she is really awesome.
She feels like she feels like she's in on it.
She feels like she's in on the joke and is kind of like, okay, I know what I'm in and like what my character is. This will be easy to play off and like provide some dark humor. And she's also fucking great in all the Spike Lee movies you mentioned, especially Inside Man, where you find out, that her character has some layers to it without spoiling anything. I think she's fucking great in that. The people who said, and this is the other thing, the backlash against the first one where they were like, they're so unlikable. Okay, well, they feel real. They feel lived in. first of all, I don't need my horror movie characters to be likable, which is a complaint that bothers me about the first one, where it's like, they're insufferable. It's like, okay, but even if you find them insufferable, which they are a little annoying, but I knew film students like that when I was their age. When it gets down to they're lost in the woods, all of your complaints about that go out the window, because it's like that, regardless of what you are like as a person, being lost in the woods is fucking terrifying, and you can at least have some empathy for what they're going through. These people deserve to be shot into space. They are the most insufferable fucking assholes. And I just, being locked up in their fucking cabin, I was just like they're all archetypes. None of them are interesting. None of them are funny.
They're supposed to be archetypes, actually.
They are supposed to be archetypes, but they're not interesting or provocative or funny in any way. They're just like, I'm just like, Jesus Christ. And I agree with you, Bryden. It's a movie that's like barely 90 minutes, and I was like, I mean, I kept texting you guys because I was just like, I don't know what to do with
I need
this.
something to keep me through it.
Like, it took me maybe 2.5 hours to watch this 90-minute movie. It was just so interminable. And I was actually kind of interested in it because of the Joe Berlinger thing. And I'm like, well, maybe people were wrong. Maybe like 20 years ago, like they were just missing some sort of commentary provided because Paradise Lost is so good. No, this is it's just slop. It also looks like ass. I mean, like the compositions and the editing, as Bryden mentioned, it's just like, it just feels like it's the equivalent of like writing your 5-page essay in homeroom the day your essays due. Like that's just essentially what it feels like. It's
Hell yeah. Also, this is the second movie we've covered that is edited by Sarah Flack, and I have a feeling she had a lot of work to do with this one.
Yeah, if there's one thing I walked away from this movie from, and I texted you in the middle of this, how did she edit this? And then Kevin, you explained, which you probably should do, is I was just like, I felt such sympathy for her having to just be like, here are our dailies, and then just her being like like what am I, how?
So what am I supposed to do with it? We have 1 fucking month, make it into a movie. Okay. But I was also listening to a commentary track on YouTube today with Ben Rock, who directed Burkittsville 7. He also worked on the original Blair Witch Project and was kind of a consultant on this one, but they kind of just quit talking to him. And he saw the original cut before Artisan made all their changes, and he was like, it still wasn't good then. It was because the script was so rushed and bad. And I've seen a fan-made director's cut, which like pretty much just took all the stuff that Berlinger said, like, well, I wanted to do this and this and this, and they've rearranged it and whatnot. Like all the interrogation stuff is at the end, all the gore is taken out, the song choices are a little different, and it makes it, I guess it makes it somewhat better, but it's still, the bones of it are still there, so it's not that much better. And it takes out a lot of the schlock that I kind of like it for. Like, this is a terrible movie, but I love watching it. It just makes it less fun. Like, this movie is, it makes it feel like a chore, or you watch it in its original state and you're just like, what a fun disaster this is. So there's a lot of people that think like he was like screwed out of the editing room, and it's just like, no, you made the script in like a month, and it shows you. First of all, Artisan should have just not let the guy do it after he said, all your scripts you have are bad, and I also hate the Blair Witch Project. They were just like, oh, okay, but this guy made Paradise Lost, so he knows what he's doing. And it's just like, you should have just you should have either A, waited, or B, got somebody that actually liked the original one and wanted to do something in the same spirit. Like, you could have done a meta movie like this is and still done found footage. Like, have a group of kids that go into the woods after being obsessed with the original movie, and then just cool shit happens. I don't know.
Yeah, and you talking about Berlinger not liking the movie, that makes the joke that I cited in the Blair Witch episode about like where the character mocks Heather the Heather performance. I'm like, okay, that seems shittier now. It's like now I'm like thinking like it was Berlinger, like that was his way of like, yeah, I'm gonna dunk on the original movie with that joke. I mean, I don't know if that, I don't want to like,
I mean, he said he didn't like it,
But
so
they're all,
probably.
No, but they're exactly. They're all easy targets. Like everything in this movie is such an easy target, and they can't even like stick a landing with any of them.
It's incoherent, like you said, with like the whole violence in media like thing that like they have at the end. If that's what the movie's saying, it's like, well, get the fuck out of here. That's the stupidest argument ever and everything. But if it's not the argument that they're making, it's like, well, why is it there then? Like, I don't really know what purpose it serves. Maybe I'm stupid and I'm not on this movie's level or whatever. But like, I don't really, I don't really know this movie. If it's saying something, it's like offensive at best, and if it's like, or it's offensive at worst, and at best, it's like, well, it's just like incoherent. There's nothing really to say. It's toothless. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah,
Bryden, you're not stupid. You're better than a script that was written in a month. But yeah, it's just like if you're trying to make that a point, then it's just like, okay, then this makes no sense. And if you're not trying to make it a point, you're just like, oh, that's it? Okay. But
and
yeah,
the movie's basically like, I guess, like it's like, you know,
were they possessed? I don't know. Were they? And you're just like, can you fuck off and tell me?
The fade out ending that feels like just such a shrug at the end. Like it's like you said, Charlie. Like this film is not finished. That's the I can't believe that's the ending. I'm like,
I was ridiculous. Shocked because I was just waiting for the movie to end, and then I was just like, wait, really? That's it? Like that's it?
Yeah. I think. Like objectively looking at this, I think the first like 5 minutes before you get the flashback of him in the hospital, that's like the best this movie has, because that's actually like pretty funny. Like having the Burkittsville person being like, yeah, a lot of people on the internet wanted sticks, so I started selling sticks for $10, and then they wanted rocks, but I couldn't sell rocks over the internet because they weigh a lot, so it costs a lot more. And then having Jeff Donovan just being like, fucking, I saw the movie 17 times in a row, and they come up to me, you know, people say nay, but I have people that come up to me and they hug me and they say, I know, and I say, I know, and they're like, I know, you know, like that's probably the best that the meta-ness goes for that. The rest of it, they just kind of throw it away. But let's get into this fucking awesome plot. In November 1999, tourists and fans of the Blair Witch Project descended on the small town of Burkittsville, Maryland, where the film was shot. Local resident Jeff, a former psychiatric patient and obsessed fan, orchestrates a group tour of locations featured in the film. Among the group are graduate students Stephen and his pregnant girlfriend Tristan, who are researching mythology and mass hysteria, Erica, the Wiccan daughter of a minister, and Kim, a goth psychic.
Can someone please explain to me the importance of Tristan being pregnant and having a miscarriage? Because I have no idea what the film's getting at there.
Dead babies being like a thing that was used as a scare in the movies, I guess.
Well, yeah, like having her like losing a baby, and then she's seen visions of children and stuff like that. Like, and then like when Kim is leaving the convenience store and she sees the 7 dead children and whatnot, it's just like, because Tristan also has that very awful quote where she's talking to Steven. She was like, I had a dream where I was dancing around and all of the dead children were looking at me as I twirled around. Jeff, I swear to God, those are the kids that Justin Parr killed, or something like that.
Also, not to shame anybody as a man who will never be pregnant in their life, and I know it's a line that's like, because Erica, I believe, is it Erica who's the goth? I'm forgetting everybody's name right now.
No, Kim is the goth. Erica is the Wiccan.
Kim is the goth. So she says, "You don't want the baby," but Jeff.
Oh yeah,
Jeff
they
does.
They are walking into the woods. They have not said one word to each other.
They don't know.
And she just stops and goes, "How far along are you?" And she goes, "How did you know?" And you're like, "How far along are you?" 6 weeks, and you don't want it. And she goes, "No."
She is drinking that.
Stephen wants it.
Yeah.
How did you know that? I just know. Like, okay.
She is drinking that baby to death. I mean, if there was any other movie that, like, you would think the nurse would be like, "So, how much alcohol did you have last night?" Like how many drugs? Like, not to shame anybody, like, but like, it just made it's like, it's just weird that like they don't even consider that as a part of like, no, it's witchcraft. It's like, you also partied a fuck ton, and you clearly don't want the baby, but also like don't don't do that when you're pregnant and then be shocked. Like, I don't know if this is getting gross or like me shame. It's not my point.
Wow. Charlie is advocating for caring about your baby when you're pregnant.
No.
What an asshole.
Look, and if she
this guy
wanted an
is.
abortion, she should have gotten an abortion. And I feel bad that she was clearly being shamed by the guy that she was with who wanted the baby. But like that, but like that's the thing. The movie doesn't care. It doesn't care about like that whole issue of like the character doesn't want the baby, her male partner does. Has no interest in their relationship or why they got pregnant or anything like that. It's just like used as a weird plot point, which is gross. I don't know if I'm being hypersensitive now, but
no, she's just the woman that has a miscarriage, pretty much,
and then
they have to keep checking on her.
Fucking insane. Which the movie's heavily implying. Well, it's witchcraft. I'm not saying the movie's saying like, but like.
I don't even know if it's heavily applying it. I don't even know.
And then it turns out it's maybe a lie. Like they were all imagining her being crazy at the end. I don't know.
But like even that, stupid. Like even like a postpartum, like not postpartum depression, because that implies that you carried it to full term. But like that whole thing could be considered kind of offensive. Like the whole like she had a miscarriage and now she's crazy. Like even though she didn't want the baby, it's just like
she's the witch, man.
It's just so weird. Like I just like you can't just throw this shit at a wall and not have anything to like. As you both said, it's totally incoherent bullshit. Like
yeah, and like the first movie works so well, I think, because like it is like just like a limited set of characters, but there is like, and even though that movie, as we talked about, was like largely improvised, it's like you do feel like there is like a history between all the characters, and like that the tension is rooted in like some kind of deep connection. Whereas here, the tensions with the characters, it's just like kind of stuff they pick up and drop, where it's like, oh, Steven and Erica like almost have sex at one point, but then maybe it turns out it's a vision, and they're just kind of awkward about it, and then don't really talk about it for the rest of the movie. Like it has no real bearing on the rest of the film, or you know the fact that Jeff had psychiatric problems, like or had mental problems, and it's like that's not really. I mean that feeds into the fact that he's guilty of murder at the end of the movie. That's potential. That's feeding.
And they're just like yeah, see. That's why.
Yeah, that's another offensive stereotype and everything. But it also just like that's other than that, the movie doesn't really have any bearing on it. Like, it has no real relevance to the plot or any kind of like tension that the movie's building.
Even the white goo coming out of his mouth, it looked like he choked on like a vanilla milkshake from McDonald's or something. It's so awful. Like it's just like I just love that too when you have an unconscious person in a psychiatric hospital just oozing liquid out of their like gross, also not real. Like
yeah, Ben Rock was saying he's apparently like a huge fan of Titty Cut Follies, the Frederick Wiseman movie.
That's insane.
Yeah, about patients in a hospital like that, and
in Massachusetts, baby.
What if someone tells Frederick Wiseman about that and he watches Blair Witch 2? What if he's like, well, let's see, where's my influence?
I have a friend my friend Erica works for Frederick Wiseman, by the way. I don't know if I told you any of that, so I could also ask them if they've seen if their boss has seen
Wiseman is like 80. He's just like the who, what, which, what. But apparently, like, he was at Artisan and somebody was just like, we just shot a scene and we just took it straight from Titty Cut Follies and whatnot. And he watched it and he was like, this sucks, dude. There's also a funny story. Eduardo Sanchez says now that he kind of feels bad about it, but he said that when Myrick and him were watching it for the first time, they gave it like 10 minutes and then they just started Mystery Science Theater 3000 in it. They were just like, this is
it
bad.
was like one of those movies where I was just like, God, I wish you two were just watching this with me, because watching this by myself sucks. Like there's no one I can shit on with it. Like
all I know is I didn't rewatch either of these movies because I've seen them forever, but after we're done recording, I'm gonna watch it, and guess what? I'm gonna go to bed so happy, okay? Because the sheriff has some of my favorite line readings of all time.
By the way, the sheriff's name is Sheriff Cravens.
Right, and he's actually, like, in the lore, he's, like, in the Burkittsville 7 mockumentary, and then, like, in the lore, he was the one that it was the head of the investigation of the 3 kids from Blair Witch Project. So it's like, but do we know all of that other than nerdy me? No. Back to the plot. They camp for the night in the ruins of the Rustin Parr house, where Jeff has placed surveillance cameras hoping to capture supernatural occurrences, where Kim has the great line where Jeff is unpacking all of his stuff, and he's like, I'm hoping to get a real glimpse of the Blair Witch tonight. And Kim is like, wow, you're really all in on the bullshit business, aren't you? And he goes, well, if you don't believe it, why are you on here? She's like, I thought the movie was cool.
Which, not a bad idea in concept, except they don't do anything with it. Like, getting a non-believer into it, who just is like, I mean, yeah, that is the most believable thing of like, yeah, I was just interested in the movie, man. I don't know. I mean, like, that seems pretty believable, and then no follow-through, like everything else. Sorry to interrupt, though.
Oh, you're fine, you're fine. Jeff becomes unnerved when he notices a large tree located in the center of the house's foundation, claiming it was not there before. That night, another tour group arrives to camp at the ruins, but are misdirected to Coffin Rock by Jeff and Steven. Who wrote this Wikipedia? Somebody's mom. After drinking and smoking marijuana all night, the group awaken in the morning to find Steven and Tristan research documents shredded and strewn through the woods, and Jeff's cameras destroyed. Where Jeff has the amazing line reading where he's walking through the woods and he goes, where the fuck are my cameras? His damaged tapes are uncovered beneath the house's foundation, just like the tapes from the original Blair Witch Project. Right when this happens, because Kim, she's psychic, which they kind of go in and out of that she can do that.
For convenience, yeah.
Right. Pretty much at the start, and then they just forget about it. But they're just like, where are the tapes? Where are the tapes? Blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, they're in there. And they're like, how do you know that? And they pull it out, and they're just like, what the fuck did you do this tapes? And she's like, psychic. And they're like, oh. Tristan suffers a miscarriage, and they rush her to the Burkittsville hospital. In our hospital room, Tristan sees a young girl walking backwards.
And we also keep cutting into like flash forward. We're not sure if they're like flash forwards or flashbacks of like sort of like these orange tinted, like rapidly cut together shots of like bashing people's heads in and like stabbing and running and people being like tied up. Like you see that in the opening credits, but also like when they're at the campfire, you get like flashes of that. And I guess that's like leading, like it's like maybe something happened.
And the fact that I know now that it was all shot in Berlinger's backyard makes that so funny. Where you know he was just like, "All right, let's get this shit over with," and it's just like
they're like all very close shots where you can't see anything else besides what's happening. So because I'm sure you could see like a 7-Eleven in the background if they zoomed out a little bit more, But yeah, that's like how they go from one scene to another. It's just like another 2 seconds of like a knife going to a neck. And you're supposed to be, oh, but that's it. After she is discharged, the group retreat to Jeff's house, an industrial building that was once a factory. This place rules. I actually love this place. When Tristan rests, the group review Jeff's tapes, which uncover an image of Erica circling around a tree nude. But the tree is actually very thin. It's like a branch. Distraught, Erica claims she has no memory of such event and goes to pray in another room. I like how they put goes to pray in another room. When Kim tries to console her, Erica reveals rash-like symbols covering her body and proclaims the group has been marked for death.
And then Kim is saying like, it's just like poison oak or something. It's like everyone got poison oak and it just so happens to have like these very specific symbols. Yeah, we're also getting like a lot of the new metal soundtrack, I think, in these scenes when like it's just Jeff in his editing area. Like Dirge by Death in Vegas is playing, I think, at one point, and Dragula, and it's like good songs, and like I don't even have a problem with like the I know some people like dunk on this era of music and everything, but it's like the movie doesn't even use it interestingly. It's just like it is just pure background noise. It doesn't even really do anything to like enhance the atmosphere at all, which I think is a wasted opportunity.
Right, because during the scene where they're all at the fire at the ruins and whatnot, a System of a Down song plays, you can barely hear it. Then a Nickelback song plays, you can barely hear it. And then I think another song plays, you barely hear it. And then the fantastic montage set to Feel Good Hit of the Summer. But yeah, like it's like there's only like 2 or 3 interests where the song like goes above like whisper quality. It could have really used that. Although I do think the score is fantastic. I've always loved the score. It's very
Carter Burwell, who's like a really great composer, but I don't know. I guess it's just maybe I think the scares in this movie are like so by the numbers, where it's like it's
there's no scares.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I wish the score was in a better movie.
Yes,
but
that's a good
what
way
can
to
you
put
do? Yeah. Kim borrows Jeff's van to pick up coffee and alcohol in town. At the country store, she gets into an argument with the cashier. While driving away, she swerves to avoid a group of children in the road and crashes the van into a tree, denting the fender. The children disappear when she exits the van. This scene is phenomenal, I would say. I think that's how you describe it. She's walking up, and like 3 teens are just like, "Oh, hey, Elvira, I got something you could suck the blood out of," Really cool stuff.
And then like the movie, like the limited town, like the limited set of residents in the town, like I think like they run into like a mean customer, like who like we see at the beginning, who like rams her her shopping cart into Kim.
You're with the witch people.
Yeah, and then she has that whole thing with like the gum cracking like cashier, but like. And the movie's like the cashier's like clearly being mean to Kim just because of like how she looks and everything, because she's associated with like this Blair Witch fandom and everything. But then like it's revealed at the end of the movie, it's like, well, they were right to be like mean to Kim because look at what she did to this cashier. It's so stupid.
She says, "You're with the witch people," and she goes, "Lady, I'm just here to buy alcohol." And she goes, "Witch," and throws her cart and just walks off.
What is it that
and
she
then,
buys? She's buying all the stock of like, what is it that she's buying?
I don't know.
Is it Wicked Ale? I know they're drinking that later.
No, the woman with the cart, like you see her at the start where they're going through, and she just has like a whole cart of like cheese.
Yes, right, that was
and they go to that store 2 separate times on the same day, I think, and she's still there another time just getting it's like she's waiting for the next shipment of whatever the fuck that is to come in so she can take the next load.
Yeah, I want to see that movie. What's that woman up to?
What happened to her? Yeah, like what?
Yeah. Hey everybody, Kevin here. I'm editing the podcast, and I wasn't able to bring this up while we were doing the episode, but the woman at the opening of Blair Witch 2, she has an entire cart of a deviled ham spread. Deviled ham spread. Emphasis on devil. Okay, bye. Just stockpiling cheese. I don't know. There's also, during this scene when Kim is reaching in to get the beer and there's a guy underneath it fixing, and he says, "I'm finished now." That's supposed to be Rustin Parr. Kind of stupid.
What? Okay, that's way too obscure a reference for me.
Right, because when he comes into town after he kills the kids, he says, "I'm finally finished," and that, doesn't make any sense.
Well, she crashes the van, and like it's funny how like the editing in that scene is like so hectic, but like it's like when she actually crashes into the telephone pole, it's like she like kind of just like bunts like lightly bumps into it and everything, but the editing makes it look like it's the most frantic crash or whatever.
And then you find out that then you see the car later that day and was like, I thought you just had a fender bender. And did anyone else think of this?
How do you even drive that home?
Did anyone else think of the Wolf of Wall Street where the cops arrest him and then they're just like, oh, scene. Maybe I didn't get home so safely last night. I was like, that's the same scene. Just wanted a flashback of Kim just being like, "Get the fuck out of the way!"
That's like, so funny. Oh my gosh.
Scorsese is now confirmed to be a Book of Shadows apologist. Okay. Also, yeah, that's the entire scene with her and the clerk is just fantastic. Just so good.
Well, at first I was kind of like, she has every right to be annoyed, but then she goes too far with just like, "What's your name? Penny?" and like flicks her like name tag. I'm like, yeah, okay, now the clerk has every right to fucking deny her service. like just
oh man. Well, Peggy.
Oh, Peggy,
tell
yeah.
the bitch at the front to do her goddamn job. Yeah,
I was just like,
great.
At first I was like, yeah, that's unreasonable. And then I was just like, look, I've worked customer service for more than half my life now. And yeah, those people drive me fucking, like, I would just be like, get the fuck out of my store. This is unacceptable. Where like Kim is, I'd argue, the most likable character in terms of like, I mean, they're all insufferable and she's annoying in terms of like just how she's behaving and acting in the cliched goth way but like, yeah, like
at least she's not saying, well, the Blair Witch, she's like me, she's like an earth child, you know?
God, if we talked about, I left the room for a second, but we've talked about how insufferable Erica is yet, because
not yet.
Okay, we'll get there then.
I mean, there is the really funny scene with where they find out like Erica's the woman who's like swinging nude on the tree or whatever, and like I think like Kim is being a little bit more understanding with Erica, like asking like, okay, like, do you maybe know why this happened? And like Jeff is saying like, yeah, did you trash my fucking equipment, whatever? And then like you see like Kim like out of like the corner of her eye, she's like looking at Jeff like, okay, come on, like ease up a little bit. Like that's kind of a funny little beat, but that's like
Erica's like the equivalent of the overly woke friend who will correct you for every single thing you do wrong. She's offended by everything in this movie. Everything has some connotation, not towards any group of people, just her and how it affects her. And she uses the excuse that it's about Wiccans, but it's only about her. She sucks.
Yeah, there's like one thing where she's just like, of course, blame a witch. And you're just like, shut up. Yeah. How about that?
I think there's one empathetic moment, which is when she's being ordered to get like coffee or something. And it's like, that's the one time where she's like, all right, your majesty, or some
she says, I like live to serve.
Yeah, I live to serve. And I'm like, okay, that's the one moment where I'm just like, okay, you can be rightfully annoyed about that. But like that whole thing, like, and then they give her the line that really pissed me off. Sorry, I'm going off topic a little bit here, but like the one thing I didn't understand is there was one woman and two men and no sex. And I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, like if anything, like it's amazing.
Just think about it. Like you're just thinking about dying in the biggest relief right at your fingertips, and I'm just like,
imagine
oh.
this, men and women being friends.
It's just like, yeah, even comments on the first film, they allude to the fact that like it's pretty dangerous for her to go out and camp with two men, one of whom she doesn't even know, and like, but that's kind of something about the first film that is weirdly, I mean, like they touch upon the misogynistic behavior of the two men at first, but rape never seems like it's on the table, or assault never seems like, it doesn't seem like they're capable of going that far. So then to have this whole thing of like, why didn't they just bone? It just comes off as so tasteless and gross, where you're just kind of like, yeah, I don't like, if they did fuck, I mean, like, I feel like that would have been like, I mean, Heather's already feeling unsafe as it is. You know what would make her feel really comfortable is just two men coming onto her, and then like, I don't know. Sorry to get onto that gross topic. It's just like that joke really rubbed me the wrong way, where I'm just like, oh, fuck off, movie. Like, come on.
Maybe that's Joe Berlinger's reason he didn't like the first movie. So he's writing the script. He's just like, why no sex?
I mean, yeah, I guess that's like him trying to up the. I mean, there's like more gore, more nudity, more drugs and drinking in this movie. So it's like he's like thinking, yeah. I think I got this. It's
yeah. Well, that's the other thing too about the first film is like there's even that great moment where she's like, oh, I hate scotch, and like taking swigs of it, and that's never implied that like that could even that sex or anything is on these two men's minds. And here it's just like to give that line to Erica, of course, like if they at least gave it to like one of the men who was just like a gross perv, and then have the women roll their eyes or something, that would have at least made sense. But like her, it just like, why would you even think? I don't know. And maybe that right. It's coming from me as a man, and maybe like, but men wrote this movie, so I don't know, like whatever.
Blame Joe Berlinger and Dick Beebe, okay? Don't blame us. Yeah, because like with the hotel scene where they're drinking and Heather asks if they have any pot, the deleted scenes of that is just Josh and Mike doing bad poetry for like 10 minutes. And it's really funny. It's just like, yeah, that's what they got into, man. They're fucking pretentious film nerds. Yeah. Speaking of Erica, she has that incredible scene where she goes to a plant and goes, "Do I have a permission to take this leaf? Thank you."
Oh yeah.
Okay.
To make sure Mother Nature consents, even though she doesn't wait for a response either.
She waits like 1 second and goes, "Thanks." Yeah. Later, Kim finds a bloody nail file stuck among the bottles of beer she purchased. The following morning, Jeff looks outside and sees the front end of his van entirely caved in to the point that it is undrivable. Kim insists that the accident was minor. The group realize Erica is absent and search the house. They attempt to call her father at his office, but they are told by the secretary he has no children.
They don't even like follow up with that. That's supposed to be like some revelatory moment, and then just drop it. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, because he's a minister and whatnot, so it's just like, yeah, because Jeff's like, because they're like, he doesn't have a daughter, and Jeff is like, I know they disowned her because she's a witch and whatnot, and then the operator, or the secretary goes, he has no children, and hangs up. But I gotta do my favorite line reading in this whole movie, maybe all of cinema, but when the sheriff is talking to Kim in the fast forward and goes, "Wipe that shit off your face. You think your makeup and black clothes give you power?" Lanny Flaherty is fucking fantastic in this movie.
He understood the assignment, unlike a lot of other people involved in this movie.
Him at the start with a megaphone just screaming at a bunch of goths in the woods saying, "There ain't no goddamn Blair Witch." That's great. Meanwhile, Tristan's disposition grows increasingly bizarre. The county sheriff Cravens calls Jeff, informing him the other tour group was found disemboweled on Coffin Rock and threatens him. This doesn't say his amazing line reading where he's talking with him and he goes, "Disemboweled, Jeffrey!"
And then he's saying, "You see me on the TV?" And then, you see him,
He's
waving
like,
on the
"Over
monitor.
here!"
Oh, yeah, where he waves. He waves. Everyone else watching that news, that story was probably like, why is the sheriff waving at the camera?
He's that happy to be on TV.
Yeah. I think that's the time where Jeff answers the phone. He goes, "Fuck off, nobody's home."
That's how I answer the phone before we're open at work. Every day.
Yeah, that's true.
Every day.
Fuck off, nobody's home. Later, while searching through a drawer, Kim finds a set of surveillance dossiers on herself and the others. She confronts Jeff, but he denies knowing the source of them. Shortly after, the group discovers Erica's corpse in a closet, naturally. Tristan begins chanting about Windershins and speaking backwards. This leads Kim to suggest they played Jeff's tapes in reverse. Okay. Upon doing so, they found the footage show the high and drunken group descending into a demonic ritual and frenzied orgy led by Tristan, culminating in the murder of the other tour group at Coffin Rock. When they confront Tristan, she alternatively pleads and goads them. No, actually, they watch the tapes, and then Kim asks Tristan, "Weren't you watching the fucking screen?" And Tristan goes, "No."
Okay, that was when I lost it, because not only do they cut back from the tape, they cut back and they're all looking at the screen, and fucking Tristan's got her back to it. And it's just, I don't even know if that's intentionally supposed to be funny. And yeah, there's a good 20 seconds of, "Weren't you watching the fucking screen?" And then she just slowly twists around. No. I'm like, is this meant to be funny?
Ah, man. Jeff, convinced Tristan is possessed by the Blair Witch, "She's the witch, man," begins filming the confrontation and attempting to elicit a confession in Erica's death. The three follow Tristan to the second floor, where she ties a rope around her neck and taunts Steven, daring him to push her. In a fit of rage, he pushes her over the balcony, killing her.
Yeah, she insults his book, I think, is what really gets him going.
Our book was gonna be fucking great. Yeah. Later, Jeff, Steven, and Kim are arrested and interrogated by police. Each claimed that a possessed Tristan was responsible. Their accounts are contradicted by various video footage. Security cameras captured Kim murdering the storage carrier with her own nail file, while Jeff's home monitors show him nude hiding Erica's body in the
That
closet.
is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, by the way. It looks like he's putting, he's just kind of he's butt naked, just oh, this'll do. It's like he's putting an air mattress away after, it's just so terrible.
Yeah, and also, at the same time, Kim has probably left, and he was just like, "Kim's left. I gotta get naked and kill this chick."
And even the scene when he finds her body in the closet, I think he smiles when he finds it. He's like, "Oh, there you are!" And then he turns around.
Just where I left you. Yeah.
Well, he opens it, and Tristan's back. I guess this is her in a corner, blah blah blah. He opens, he's like, oh, she's right here, and then turns her over, and he's like, "Ah!"
And also when they're going over the footage at the end of the movie, I think we skipped over one of the funniest line readings in the movie. It's when Steven is saying "Look at the tapes," and then in a vocal range that reminded me weirdly of Chris Farley.
Look at the goddamn tapes.
It sounds like Chris Farley in the coffee sketch, from Saturday Night Live, where he's hallucinating about that.
But also, he screams that, and then the police officer slams his hands on the table for 10 seconds and just stares at him.
It's like he forgot a line, and he just was like, "He'll just do something for dramatic effect," and he just did that. Yeah.
The DVE footage Jeff filmed during Tristan's confrontation shows her pleading for her life as they accuse her of being a witch, ending with Steven mercilessly pushing her to her death, while he looks at the camera and goes, fucking witch. It's pretty good. Meanwhile, as Jeff, Kim, and Steven are shown this footage by police, funeral mourners arrive in the woods to remember the other tour group that was murdered. That's it. That's all that's here.
What an ending.
Kevin,
Yeah.
you mentioned how you saw Devil Inside at midnight and everyone was furious. What I would give to have like theater security footage of like audiences just like watching this play out, and then have like what I would give, because people must have been fucking livid at this shit.
Like, take a guess at the cinema score for this movie.
I already looked it up.
D+.
It's D-, which
It's
I mean,
D-.
I feel like some people have said like that's almost like worse than an F, because it's just like this movie's just like fucking bad or whatever. But not to say that some good movies have not gotten that score, but you know, whatever.
I remember Scott Tobias at one point referred to D- as the gentleman's F, the polite F.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other movies have gotten a D-? I'm just curious, like, because I know, like, did It Comes at Night? I know we mentioned that. Did that get a D-, or was that just like a D or a D+?
D, I think.
Yeah.
Vanilla Sky got a D-, which I love. I know
Oh.
you two are not as high on that one, but I love Vanilla Sky.
It's interesting. It's just, I mean, especially after Almost Famous, I bet people were going in being like, it's the new Cameron Crowe joint. It's releasing around Christmas. It's going to be huge. Tom Cruise, Cameron Diaz.
Just the biggest bummer ever. And
however,
then
you
Summer
do
of
have Cameron Diaz saying, I swallowed your cum. That means something. So, like...
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
She also says like 9 times, we had sex 4 times. We had sex 4 times.
Look, when you have sex with someone, your body makes a transaction whether your soul wants to or not. What?
I'm looking at cinema score films that got D's. We got Eyes Wide Shut. We got Geely. I don't know how
How
fuck
did Geely
didn't
not get an F? Oh my god.
I think
The Happening got a D.
Summer of Sam, which we mentioned earlier because Kim Director apparently is in that got a D-, I think.
Did it really?
Yeah. Some people really didn't like that movie. I think it's pretty good.
Oh, that's an
I
amazing
think it's
movie.
good.
That's a great Spike Lee movie. I mean,
How did Movie 43 and Marcy X get a D but not an F? I don't understand. All right, everybody, Kevin again. It would behoove me to not let everybody remember the tagline from Marcy X is where hip hop meets shop till you drop. Okay, I'm sorry, no more interruptions.
I mean, it is kind of fascinating because you are like, what were the few people who gave it like enough points to not get a failing grade? I mean,
Battlefield Earth got a D. I don't know.
wow.
There was just some guy that was just like, once again, John Travolta knocks it out of the park, and then everybody just beat him up.
So by cinema score standards, In the Cut and Soderbergh's Solaris and Friedkin's adaptation of Bug, worse movies than Battlefield Earth. Or Geely.
I mean,
Or Blair Witch.
Blair Witch too.
Yeah.
yeah, I have nothing else really to say other than I can't help but love Blair Witch 2. It's terrible. It's objectively bad, but I love watching it. There's just so many it's like somebody at bat that strikes out, but just keeps just being like, no, give me 3 more tries, I got this, and then strikes out again. There's just like, wait a minute, I got this, and you're just like, no.
This is a different sport, but like it's the gif like of the guy throwing, like looking back to the net, and he like throws the basketball in the net, and it's like, and then like it turns, and then it just like bounces off the rim.
Oh yeah, it's just Swaggy P thinking he dunked a 3-pointer.
Well, Kevin, did you see this right after? Like you said, you saw Blair Witch when you were 7, 8. Did you see this one when you were a kid? And were you like, this is gonna freak me the fuck out, just like the first one? And then even at that age, you were like, oh,
I remember
my.
watching it, and I was just like, I hope there's no footage of the original movie. And like the 4 seconds we get of the original movie, I was like, don't fucking do this to me. And then I watched it, I was like, this is not scary at all. I was just like, what are these shots of Jeff in an electric chair as a jump scare? What's going on?
And then
here?
the scene is just like him ending, like he rubs his eyes, kind of just mildly tired. It's like coffee, and then the scene just ends. Like the scares have no impact whatsoever.
None.
It's just like, yeah.
Also, very funny to me that Roger Ebert eventually reviewed this film because this movie starts off with archival footage of him reviewing the first film.
Yeah. That does feel like a
Basically,
conflict of interest. He should.
Yeah, well, he gave it 2 stars and not the full 1, which is shocking to me considering Ebert he knew how to be fierce back then still. And somehow he was just like, well, part of me, I love Roger Ebert, but part of me was thinking like he was just like, oh, that was nice. And then just like, that's worth a star, right? Like,
Here's a quick quote by Berlinger on his inspiration for the film. I thought a more interesting way of connecting Blair Witch 2 to the documentary tradition would be to try to make a movie that tells a story like a good documentary does, that is infused with social commentary, because that's what a documentary is. A documentary is not about shaking the camera around, it's about telling a story that has social commentary in it. That's all he said.
What commentaries are being provided here? I can see the seeds being planted. I see no trees whatsoever. Like,
just like, think about it.
Yeah.
Violence, media, witchcraft. Things to discuss. Lots to think about here.
I think that was the tagline for Vanilla Sky. I think that's what it was. Berlinger was also inspired by the lazy consumption of media that led many to accept the Blair Witch Project as a true documentary, specifically how readily the public is willing to accept something that's shot on video is real. He elaborated, on one hand, Blair Witch 2 works as a standard horror film, but it's also a meditation on violence in media and the natural of fanaticism and obsession, and the dangers of blurring the lines between reality and fiction. Okay.
All right.
He didn't get that.
Yeah. I mean, words are one thing. Follow through is another. It's just, I mean, the first Blair Witch, I mentioned this before, but like, there is no violence on screen. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like,
I mean, if they would have not shot the gore scenes, the only violence would be them killing Tristan and the flashback of killing the clerk. That's pretty much it. So, I mean, it would have been not that much more, honestly.
But, like, did anyone talk about, like, I don't even think in 99, I'm sure people were talking about, like, Blair Witch's exploitation, but, like, even self-reflexively, the movie knows that the original, like, is aware of, the double-edged sword of, making a fictionalized film that it plays out as if it's reality, but even like throwaway lines like we talked about, or not throwaway lines, but like lines that, the cameras, it's not reality, like, and that's why we go to movies to begin with, is to feel manipulated and to feel like, even if we don't like say that consciously, like, it's not like we walk into a movie theater, we're like, I want to be manipulated, but like, that's part of the whole disturbing quality of the first film. And here it's like, it's just like, what is the point? Like, it doesn't even make sense to do it from this perspective. Like,
why do I feel like reading these quotes that Joe Berlinger was like insulted that Blair Witch Project exists and that it's not a real documentary? Like, I kind of feeling that a little bit, where it's just like, I make these documentaries and then everybody sees this fake documentary, like I'm doing the real work.
Was he thinking like, if I was there, I would have actually killed those actors?
Also, people fucking
he would have been like
I would have.
What's my man at the end of Grizzly Man? He's just listening to the audio of the Blair Witch Project, and he's just like, you must destroy this.
But like, that's also, it's like the guy wasn't like a no-name director. Like, people saw Paradise Lost back in '96. I mean, fucking
it was huge.
Siskel and Ebert reviewed it, for Christ's sake. It's not like this guy was like small fry.
You were saying you hope Joe Berlinger doesn't find this podcast. If he does, I would like to ask him what the title of his Ted Bundy movie is, and I guarantee he will not be able to tell me. He'd be like, extremely
loud and incredibly close.
Oh man.
Oh God.
Okay, let's final thoughts this. Do we have any more thoughts?
I will say it is extremely funny to me that when Erica is like, they have the footage of Erica like swirling around naked, and then she's just like, I need to leave, and then just has like the Wiccan circle where she's just like dry heaving back and forth, just saying the same thing.
And then they come in and her clothes are gone, and they're just like, what?
You're naked. But no, I mean, I'm glad it means so much to you, Kevin. I probably,
it really doesn't.
I will not be returning to this anytime soon. I'm glad I finally saw it, because it's been on my list as someone who likes the first film so much and thinks it's great. I'm glad we watched this out of curiosity, and also because sometimes talking about shitty movies on this podcast is the most fun, even if they're the least fun to watch. Although it sounds like you
Oh,
had
it's the
fun,
most fun.
Kevin.
Oh, I always have fun. Always have fun. No, and this movie is not precious. If somebody's like, "Hey, Book of Shadows 2 sucks," I'm not just gonna be like, "Well, you don't understand it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it does. I love it though." Sorry. Yeah, this movie didn't change me as an individual. I will tell you that much. Oh God, there was another. Oh, Jeff and Kim are talking, and Kim walks away, and Jeff goes, "Where are you going?" And she goes, "The fuck away from you." Yeah, it's so good. Bryden.
Yeah, my final thought. This is a case of a sequel where more turns out to be less. They thought by like ramping up the level of scares with like the gore and like the goofy sound effects and the music, and just like the weird convoluted plotting. It just none of it works. All the choices are basically wrong here. It is kind of an interesting artifact, I think, especially with like the new metal aesthetic, and also just like it's such a weird sequel and like it's such a stark contrast tonally and stylistically to the first movie. But just because it's different does not mean it's better. But yeah.
Oh, one other thing. I couldn't believe that the final song in the end credits is a song by At the Drive-In, a band I have not listened to in a very long time, but it was like, is that At the Drive-In? They were.
I mean,
Blair Witch?
you're putting a soundtrack together. You got Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, Death in Vegas, Queens of the Stone Age. At the drive-in? Is that what we're doing? Yeah.
Which I like At the
It
Drive-In.
It feels so tonally weird when that song hits at the end. You're just like, what? What?
Kind of like how
like
Dave Matthews
got like
kind of like
Dave
the
Matthews
Dave Matthews Band
yeah.
song at the end of Matrix Reloaded. After, I'm pretty sure also in the end credits of that, the Rob Zombie song Reload and all the
Yes.
and all that, and then Dave Matthews.
You're like, what do you remember about Matrix Reloaded? It'd be like, man, when I left that theater and fucking Dave Matthews was crooning, it was pretty great.
Well, as the community joke goes, real fans call him Dave.
Oh man. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at KevBonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at JDoyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CTNash91. Once again, thank you for listening.